Good evening, folks. You are tuned into the Virtual American Town Hall. I am your host, Mohammed Faheem. My co-host is Pastor Lawrence Blackful Jr. Hopefully, he should be joining us today, unless he is tied up on something. And today, with me on the panel is Ken DeLuc, Attorney John Runyan, Ty Huttenhoff, Pete Tapaskar, Gaurav Tapaskar. We are also shortly expecting Marcia Williams, who is a candidate for Congress in the 16th District in Illinois, to be joining us. With that, let's get started by asking our panelists what is top of mind for them today. What are the topics that they would like to see addressed, starting with Ken. Ken, what do you want to see today?
Well, there's two things that I'd like to address. One is the president came by with a 6-point plan that relates to the COVID virus, which he had some really good points that he brought up. And the other one is the United States Department of Justice has just filed suit against the state of Texas for the things that they just tried to propose as it relates to this latest abortion thing, and more importantly, how it affects us in a constitutional crisis if that thing actually holds up and goes through. So
so those are two topics that Ken has, folks. Pretty important topics. Anything top of mind for you, Ty? Okay, Ty is muted up. If you can unmute yourself, and like to welcome Marcia Williams also. Marcia has just joined us. Let's put her on and see how she looks. Marcia, good evening. Welcome to the Virtual American Town Hall. If you can unmute yourself and do a quick intro and let the audience know who you are and what you're running for and what do you hope to accomplish in Congress. You're still muted. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Marcia Williams. I am running for United States Congress in Illinois District 16. I am a mother of 3. I am also a working mom. I help individuals who are low income or unemployed get their Class A CDL to drive a semi-truck. And over my last 3 years, I've helped almost 600 people get out of poverty and into a stable career.
Wonderful. Marcia, thank you for joining us. We usually start off the town hall by asking the panelists what is top of mind for you as a topic that you would like to bring to the attention of America. Anything particular that you have that you would like to address today? And folks, we need to keep our comments really restricted to about 2 to 3 minutes so we can cover a lot of ground.
With what's given what happened in the last week with Texas passing a very anti-choice law, it is really vital to talk about certain areas of abortion that many people don't discuss, and that is for women who are who have experienced miscarriages and stillbirths. I am one of those moms. I was pregnant with my son Carl, and he died when I was 38 weeks pregnant due to 2 true knots, and true knots are knots in his umbilical cord. It's so rare that it only happens in 0.3% of pregnancies. I had a better chance of winning the lottery than this actually happening. So I think we would like to discuss, kind of how that's going to hurt women more than help them.
Okay, Marcia, thank you so much for bringing it up, and thank you for sharing your personal story. Pete, what is top of mind for you? And if you can unmute yourself, please. So Pete is still muted. There you go, Pete.
Yeah, we can talk about the Supreme Court cases, what Ken mentioned.
Okay, sounds good. John, what is top of mind for you?
Well, I have to go with the majority at this point with the abomination of the new Texas abortion laws and creating private causes of action by citizens, and those citizens doing nothing more than seeking a bounty of $10,000 for each and every person that they are able to discern was assisting some woman to obtain an abortion, either inside the state of Texas or outside.
Okay, sounds good. And last but not least, Gaurav, what do you have top of mind? You've been sending me messages all morning.
Yeah, I got a lot to say, but as far as this Texas abortion law is concerned, actually, actually what Texas is doing is not only ethical but immoral. It's very cruel because in some ways abortion has got its advantages for some reason. There are pros and cons.
Okay, so you want to be on the same topic also. So folks,
Yeah, but I
looks
also
like
have one more,
the
Faheem, I also have one more topic discussed.
Okay.
Like I don't know. Like here's what I got something that's very alarming. It said in Illinois has suspended 2,700 driver's license due to electronic verification system. This is what I got on the news on Google, and I thought to myself that is a little bit alarming at this point.
Okay, let's keep that also as a topic for the day. If we get enough time, we'll dive into that. But folks, looks like the majority of our panelists would like to talk about how this one-term president who lost by over 3 million votes, and he appoints 3 judges to the Supreme Court, and they issue a one-page order in the dead of night, basically nullifying what has been settled law before in Roe versus Wade in a lot of ways. And our panelists seem to be very perturbed, very disturbed about this, and very concerned. With that, let us jump in, and we have a guest joining us today. So, Marcia, I would like to start with you. And you did share with us a personal story of how you were impacted, by having to abort a baby. And if you could please unmute yourself again and get started, would like to see, especially you and I both are trying to get into Congress.
Mhm.
And if we get into Congress, we will definitely have a say about some of these things in a lot of ways. So if you could please expound on what you started off telling us.
Okay, so I after the birth of my oldest daughter, my oldest child, my family decided to expand our family, and shortly after my daughter was born, I was blessed with another pregnancy, my son Carl. We were really excited to have our son, and I went one day on March 14th, 2007. I went to a regular doctor's appointment for my weekly checkup. And the nurse went to go check for his heart rate, like she does every week, and couldn't find anything. She thought maybe that her little Doppler was, the batteries were bad. So she went to go get another one, changed out the batteries, and the heartbeat was not present. She immediately my doctor immediately told me to go to the hospital. And at this point in time, in my head, that I thought that something was wrong with my son, that he was still alive, but he was struggling and barely hanging on, and that it was an emergency-like situation. So me and my then husband rushed to the hospital and waited for 7 grueling hours to find out that my son died. And now I want to say how late in pregnancy I was. I had a scheduled C-section 12 days later. This is how far along in pregnancy I was. His baby room was ready. My hospital bag was ready. We were ready to go for the birth of our son, to find out the devastating news that my son died. And 14 years later, it's still difficult for me to talk about, but I'm gathering the strength to talk about this because women like me suffer in silence. Now, before I go further, I just want to say the medical terminology of an abortion is the termination of a pregnancy when a live birth is not present. So let's break down this definition. Termination means to end. Abort means to remove. So when a woman who maybe has a miscarriage or a stillbirth, those are called spontaneous abortions. Mm-hmm. And these women are suffering in silence because their heart has been shattered and their world has ended. The day that my son died, we gave birth at St. Joseph's Hospital in Joliet. This is a very Catholic church, a very religious church. When we found out that my son died, they were pressuring me to remain pregnant until I went into natural childbirth. When I discussed what would happen to me if I waited, they told me that my organs would shut down, that I could have I would get an infection in my uterus and have a full hysterectomy, or I would have died of sepsis. Now, when a woman has a pregnancy that has failed, if she remains pregnant, decomposition of the fetus still happens.
Mhm.
Why you see a lot of countries that are pro-life, like El Salvador, parts of Ireland, Italy. A lot of women are dying of sepsis because they had a pregnancy fail, and by law are required to carry that child to either when she starts going into labor or she dies. When I asked them the odds of me living or dying, if I waited, I had a 20% chance of survival. 20%. So of course, anybody that has any type of right sound of mind is going to say, yes, I'm going to give birth that day. And really pressured. I said, I want to give birth to him. I want to kind of grieve. I want to move on. I want to be able to hold my son and have that moment with them. And they were pressuring me. And then all of a sudden, I came with this idea in my head and I said, what if he's still alive? You sent me in here today, he was still alive, and maybe he's barely hanging on, and maybe that's why you cannot detect anything on the ultrasound or on the Doppler. Let's give birth to him, and if he's alive, we can save him, and if he's not, then we can.
God's will at that point, yeah.
And they said, oh, okay, sure, if he's still alive, let's do it. And at that moment in time, I realized that my life did not matter to them.
Well, so sorry to hear about your experience, Marcia. And it's not just you. I'm pretty sure that there's lots of women out there who have gone through something similar. Unfortunately, most of them are not comfortable talking about it. And even if they want to talk about it, which media is going to allow them to come, and talk about something so personal to them, especially when this whole thing has become a political hot potato now. And with that, let's see, Ken, you want to jump
Yeah,
in?
let me just add to this for the people who aren't, familiar with what this Texas law has done. It does not make provisions for rape, incest, or life of the mother. So in Marcia's case, if she were in Texas today and that same situation happened, and there's not an injunction that comes through the courts, her life would have been in jeopardy. And that's just ridiculous.
Well, she wouldn't be here with us today. There's a good chance that, Marcia wouldn't be here with us today. Pete, what do you have to say about this?
The Supreme Court judges, other topic, right? Or the same topic?
Same topic, sir.
Same topic. Yeah, I think, I do agree that, politics is interfering in the personal decision. Who decides when to abort and when to terminate, all those things? It is the mother who carries 9 months baby, and her life comes first, then the baby comes second, in my opinion. And they should have more choice than the men sitting there and making political decisions.
Absolutely, absolutely agree with you 100%. It should be the choice of the mother. No one else has the right to tell. And look at the hypocrisy of these people, today, who are trying to push this law or have pushed this law forward now. They're fighting against the mask mandate, saying it's my body, my choice, when your choice is going to impact all those around you. When it comes to a woman's right and a woman says, my body, my choice, it's only her that is going to be impacted by that choice, not the society around her, not the people that are around her. So there's a lot of hypocrisy out there, folks, and we need to hold these people accountable. Enough is enough. John, what do you have to say?
Well, I did some reading of the Supreme Court ruling that came out last week that started this whole thing. And the real reality is that the Supreme Court has taken the high road on this matter and decided not to hear this matter because in their non-written word, but their unwritten word, that it was not ripe for them to make a decision on. In other words, the people had not met their burden as far as bringing this court case to the Supreme Court of the United States. They should have first gone to the state courts and had the state courts rule on it and moved it up the chain that way. So that's how they've tap danced their way out of this thing, is that it is not right to be heard. And they also point out that the application has presented complex and novel antecedent procedural questions on which they have not carried their burden. In other words, they haven't gone to the state courts yet to challenge this law, even though everything happened so quickly. People thought in real reality, this law has been churning in Texas for a little while and nobody was making any noise until all of a sudden this happened. So the impact of this, at least in my opinion, is exactly what Ken said. Women after approximately 6 weeks cannot get an abortion. There is no provisions for incest, rape, or Marcia's situation. So these women are going to be forced out of the state. And that becomes another problem because a lot of these women are probably going to be unable to financially be able to go to another state and obtain an abortion. And the Attorney General Garland, he comes right down on it and says that the Supreme Court is flying in the face of its own precedences and cites Planned Parenthood versus Casey, and that states, regardless of whether exceptions are made for particular circumstances, a state may not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to terminate her pregnancy before viability. The problem,
Jen, I'll throw in
Ken,
there
you're
real
gonna have
quick.
to, no, Ken, you let me finish here. Okay, the problem
Well, the
is,
14th,
the problem is that the Supreme Court in Planned Parenthood versus Casey used the word may. There are legal connotations with certain words. May is permissive. Shall, must are absolute. You shall do something. That means it is a must. You must do it. They didn't use that term. They used may. So it leaves everything open to interpretation. And the Supreme Court is just saying, well, you haven't met your burden because you didn't go through the state courts first. So I don't know where we're going, but the State Department has filed its lawsuit against this, but it's going to have to machinate itself through Texas law and get it up into the federal courts.
Well, that is where we stand at this point, folks. The most important thing that is coming out of the discussion, again, in my point of view, that I don't know how many women were on the Texas, a body that voted for this. I don't have any numbers on that, but I've been listening to some conversation on this, and at 6 weeks, a woman does not even know that she is pregnant. Okay, her period would be like 2 weeks late. That's what the discussion that I was listening to pointed out. And it could be because of stress. It could be because of hormonal changes. It could be because of medications. It could be because of a ton of things, not just a pregnancy. So at that point, a woman does not even know that she's pregnant. And honestly, I don't know how any woman who was on the Texas, panel could have voted for something so egregious. Makes no sense to me.
You know,
hey, John,
Mohammed,
just
Go ahead, Ken, go ahead.
A quick question. I just saw on the news, it just came when we were talking and when you were talking, that the Department of Justice is pursuing this basis the 14th Amendment. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, the 14th Amendment brought the federal laws into enforcement in the state laws. So that's how they're getting it there. The real problem is that it's going to have to wind itself through the court system. Now, if a state judge rules that this law is unconstitutional, it immediately has to go to the state Supreme Court for ruling on the constitutionality of the law. And then they can go from there, based on their decision, into the federal court system. So no matter how we look at this, there's not going to be any instant answer, and there's not going to be any instant relief on this situation. And here's the other thing that I was going to say that Mohammed brought up. The real problem for these women, especially now, is the financial inability for them to afford to even go to another state. So this is very disparate on race, on gender.
Mhm.
This impacts women completely. And if they don't have the finances, they're going to have to get to another state. Well, unfortunately, that law goes into effect, and now some stranger comes in and sues the bus driver, the cab driver, the airplane pilot, the airlines, or whoever carried this person.
Well, Gaurav, you've been, waiting patiently. If you could go ahead and come in and share your
Yeah.
thoughts on this.
Okay, like John was saying, this abortion has to do with race and gender. There's also a lot of controversy behind this abortion. Why the Republican state of Texas does not want women to have abortion is because there's what I could be wrong, quote me wrong or not, because because Texas culturally and politically, they're different type of, sometimes you kind of feel like these people from Texas are like from a different planet or like a different species. You don't know what food they're having or what water they're drinking that they think in such a way like this. Because I feel, I could quote me wrong, the reason why Texas against anti-abortion is because they're very conservative, they're all evangelicals, because they believe in like large family and they're mostly family oriented. So, and the reason why they don't want women to have abortions is because they feel that most women most of the Texas women, I think they want to continue breeding that Texas type of people, because they feel that if most women take abortions in Texas, they figure that, Texans will be outnumbered, or there will be no more next generation of Texans. That's their biggest fear. And it also has to do with, like John said, it also has to do with race and gender as well. That's why they're totally against abortion. But I don't want to get into that controversy, but that's a little bit controversial. You can figure that out, because when it comes to race and gender, I think that's another reason for abortion. And I feel like in one way, I'm gonna stick to the point. There are pros and cons in abortion. Like you say, abortion has a right to choose if a child, not only if it's of incest or if it's ill, if a child has mental or physical disabilities. I guess in a way, if a woman cannot produce a healthy child for whatever is in her body, then it's okay to have an abortion, because you don't want to bring a mentally ill or mentally ill child into the world who's going to be a burden to society or the family. But secondly, I figure if the baby is 6 months or 7 months born already in the mother's stomach, I think it'll be like, in a way, I kind of feel it'll be very criminal, very cruel for the baby to die when it's fully evolved and ready to come out. But if it's still in the preliminary stages, I guess then, if the baby's not going to be healthy, or the woman doesn't want for whatever reason, whether it's rape or incest, then I figure abortion should be carried out. Because if any woman who wants an abortion, there should also has to be a good reason why she doesn't want to have that baby.
Well, here's the thing, Gaurav. I'm glad you're bringing out all of those points.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it should be the woman's choice. It's her body. It should be her choice. Okay. Let's switch. Pete, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hopefully she makes the right decision when she takes an abortion, because the woman is a full-grown adult woman who knows why she wants the abortion,
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, if you're an adult and she's allowed to make choices for everything else in her life, why not this when her life could be at stake?
because later she might regret. But here's one thing I'll say: if women in Texas, if these women who cannot perform abortion for whatever reason, and find, like John would say, financially, economically, they can't go to another state to get abortion, what they will do is once they have the baby, they don't want it. Most of these babies, unwanted babies, will just be left in the hospital abandoned. And there are a lot of cases where children have been abandoned like that in the hospitals and no one to take care of. The parents, the mothers or fathers mothers just abandon them because they
Well, here's the thing, Gaurav, again.
That's how they end up in foster care.
Now, here's the thing again. Okay,
It's even happening in Europe.
why should this be just the responsibility of the woman?
It
The
shouldn't
woman
be.
doesn't get pregnant by herself, my friend. I mean,
I
there's a
know
man
that it's the
involved
man who
with it.
does it, but also it's
Wait, time out here, guys.
Women also tend to make bad
Hold on,
choices
stop.
just because they're
Gary,
women.
Gary, stop for a second. The issue is even more important than the abortion issue. And I see your passion and you want to stay on this. It's more of a constitutional issue. If you can enable people who have no dog in the race to go after somebody and sue them and get $10,000 because they turned them in, our whole society falls apart. That is actually the bigger constitutional issue than even the abortion issue. Let's not go to abortion because there's like a lot of people on both sides.
I get it. It works both. It's a woman's right to choose, but some of these people, Republicans, they want to make it into like a political issue because they're against abortion for whatever their ideology.
But we know
so
that.
that's why they're making it
that's
political.
been, since Reagan, that's been the policy. So we understand that.
And that needs to change.
Okay, hold on. Marcia wants to say
Go ahead,
something.
Marcia.
Hold on. Go ahead, Marcia.
Fire away, Marcia. Go ahead.
The major problem, especially with the Texas law about the bounty or upon women, when a woman has an abortion or actually elective abortion and then has a miscarriage, the afterbirth looks the same. You cannot tell the difference if a woman had a miscarriage or an abortion. So if, for example, a woman who got pregnant and had a miscarriage, somebody who didn't like her could easily say, hey, she had an abortion, and they would be none the wiser because it looks the same. If they have a pelvic exam, they can't tell she went and got an abortion. They won't be able to determine that. And now we're going to have women who've had miscarriages who are going to now have bounties on their heads, who have to add, more pain and suffering for that woman after going through a pregnancy loss. Like there is just so many layers upon what can happen that is very negative with this Texas law. There are, and what's upsetting, which really is shocking, is that there's other states who are like, oh, well, they got away with it. Now we're going to do it. We got South Dakota.
There you go.
Ohio, we have Georgia.
And you know what? There's going to be scumbags out there that are going to want to be opportunistic that are going to just do that to make the money. Okay? So you some idiot sue you and get 10 grand. I mean, that's like freaking nuts. I'm sorry.
Okay, guys, I think we have had a very passionate discussion today, folks. You are tuned into the Virtual American Town Hall. We meet here every Thursday at 6 p.m., talk about issues of the day that are close to your heart. And it is an open discussion, no right, no left. We have had enough of this BS about, Republicans and Democrats. We are Americans first and Americans last. Political ideology, party ideology should follow what we want to do as Americans first. And you are welcome to join us. Every Thursday, we meet here at 6 p.m. Go to www.thevath.com and join us. Let us take our country forward by focusing on issues that are dear to our heart, and not just issues, what kind of solutions can we bring to the table? So on that note, folks, I got 30 seconds for each one of you. What do you think is the solution to this problem? Starting with Ken.
Well, I mean, the Department of Justice has just made the initial effort right now, and I don't think it will stand a court challenge, but hopefully it gets done sooner than later. So knock on wood, that'll happen.
Thank you, Ken. Coming down to John.
I have to agree with Ken. This law is just not going to go away in Texas magically. It is going to have to be heard by the proper courts. Or quite frankly, there is now a move to codify Roe v. Wade statutorily, and that may end the law. So either way, this is going to be a battle.
Pete, your thoughts, 30 seconds.
The first of all, this topic should not have come at the state level. And the other state may take exactly opposite view. There should be referendum on this by the woman participant. No men should be involved in that referendum. What they want it, they should decide. That will be the law for the entire country, not for one state. If it has to be Texas wants to be a part of America, they should follow that one, not make their own laws.
Okay.
Well, that's what the
Gaurav.
14th Amendment is all about, Pete, but yeah.
Gaurav, 30 seconds.
Yeah. So what Pete was saying, I totally agree. It should not come to a state level. It should be between the man, woman, and the family. But also when it comes to Texas law, here's my opinion. Some of the laws are very, very barbaric, especially when it comes to stuff like religion, abortion, and of course, the death penalty. So the abortion and the death penalty laws are almost practically the same. It's a different issue, but they have the same mentality. So I kind of feel like sometimes Texas can have some very laws that are very barbaric and a little outdated, because some parts of Texas and sometimes some of the way of ideology thinking is very, very backwards. So don't expect anything from Texas, because like I said, Texas is very conservative and
Gaurav,
religious.
you've gone beyond your 30 seconds. Marcia, let's end up with you. Final thoughts on this. John brought up a very good point that Congress might be looking into codifying this as settled law coming from Congress, rather than all of these, state courts and local politicians jockeying for power, trying to make it, so that their constituents re-elect them. And you are muted at the moment, so if you can please unmute yourself again and give us your thoughts, and we'll end on that today.
In this country, we have a really huge crisis of maternal mortality. Certain states that have very restrictive anti-choice laws have higher rates of maternal mortality versus other states that are a little bit more pro-choice, like Illinois. To be able to combat this, we need to have an act of Congress by passing the American Women's Health Act to make sure that women like me or women who choose to have an abortion can be able to get access to health care.
Wonderful. Thank you all, folks, for your time today, for joining us on the Virtual American Town Hall. Feel free to join us again next week. Bring some family, bring some friends. Let's take this conversation forward. With that, I am your host, Mohammed Faheem, and I am going to be ending the town hall for today. Again, if you would like to join us, please join us by going to www.thevath.com. Hope to see you all here next week, same place, same time. Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thanks, Marcia.
See ya.